The gentleman yields back. The gentleman from Georgia, Mr. Clyde, is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've noticed a trend going on here of holding hearings on legislation that has already passed the House, such as you did with H.R. 3755, the Abortion on Demand Bill, and the Equal Rights Amendment. As with that trend, I've begun to pick up on another trend that we're setting, and unfortunately, this one is more disturbing. The new trend is that this committee continues to use, or rather should I say continues to abuse, its power to conduct oversight into the private activities of private citizens and private companies, which ultimately results in nothing more than one big public shaming campaign. In my 10 months here on this committee, I have been made aware that my Democrat colleagues have leveraged both letters and subpoena threats to either compel private entities to appear before the committee or to hand over privileged and, mind you, protected materials for the committee staff to ransack. In this congressional session alone, we've seen this committee engage in this manner with cyber ninjas, the National Football League, the Sackler family, and now we're seeing them do it to the companies before us today. This committee used to be called the Committee on Oversight and Government Reform. It is now just called the Committee on Oversight and Reform. The day the majority choose to remove government from this committee's title was a big red flag to all, that House Democrats might truly believe their authorities go beyond the four corners of the United States Constitution. This committee should focus its oversight activities and investigation on government operations, not inject itself into private operations. To our witnesses, I want all of you to know that I support an all-in approach to ensure our nation is energy independent. History is no stranger to the energy crisis we're experiencing today, as once thriving towns and cities shuddered when the main driving force of the economy, the coal mines, closed. We are now seeing this chilling effect, particularly in the oil and gas realm, happen on a macro scale ever since President Biden enacted by executive fiat his green policies. Such is evident when President Biden chose to shut down the Keystone XL pipeline on his first day in office, a decision that resulted in hundreds of people losing out on good-paying jobs and that seriously undercut our nation's ability to be energy independent and a net energy exporter. And to add salt to an open wound, President Biden immediately green-lighted Russia's Nord Stream 2 pipeline when he chose to withdraw sanctions in May. The president's energy policy simply does not make sense. He demands we decrease domestic production, yet he pleads for OPEC to increase their production. OPEC refused, and this disparity in supply became the cause of skyrocketing gas prices Americans are seeing at the pump. Hardworking people and families are paying the price for these terrible energy policies, and seniors and families on fixed incomes especially are at risk of losing their homes and are being forced to choose between heating their homes or putting food on the table. And that's even before President Biden's proposed heating tax found in his absurd big government socialism spending bill called budget reconciliation. It's shameful, but again, you all have not been called here today to help us conduct oversight of the Biden administration's policies. No, you've been called here so my colleagues on the other side of the aisle can drag you through the mud. My first question is for Mr. Summers of the Petroleum Institute. Given the energy crisis, Mr. Summers, of countries in the EU and Asia, what they are currently experiencing, that many may argue that that is a direct result of pressures to prematurely divest from reliable fossil fuel development. How can the United States avoid a similar fate as the EU and Asia is experiencing, sir?
Congressman, thank you for your question. I do think that there is a flashing warning sign in Europe right now as energy prices continue to go up. It is mainly a consequence of a lack of supply, and they're going to continue to need more energy as their economy grows. Another major concern that Europe should have is that one of the reasons why natural gas prices in particular have gone up is because Russia has decided not to export natural gas to the EU during this critical time. It is, I think, a real warning for American consumers and the world that if you don't create your own supply at home, you're dependent on supplies from regimes that aren't necessarily have your interests at heart. And I think the Europeans and other parts of the world are finding out the importance of creating supply to ensure that we have access to affordable and reliable energy for decades and decades to come here in this country.
Thank you. I appreciate that, and I will note that our adversaries are very capable of using energy as a weapon, Russia, and we have done nothing but help them when we have green-lighted the Nord Stream 2 pipeline. And with that, I yield back, Madam Chair.
Gentleman